Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining. It's always nice to have somebody come in and want to learn about a new invasive species. Today, we're putting on a program called the spotted lanternfly, uh, Lacroma delicatula. It's in the order Hemiptera. Hemiptera contains all true bugs. One of the things that everybody says is, "Oh, look at this bug," and it's a spider. Um, there's insects, and then within the insects, there's true bugs. In this case, the spotted lanternfly is a plant hopper. You'll notice on the first slide it says, also known as the crazy bug guy. I like bugs. The spotted lanternfly is not a fly. It's also called the spotted lantern moth. And it is neither a fly or a moth. It's a plant hopper. This is one of the largest plant hoppers around. To put it into perspective, when you walk through a clover field, you'll see these little green hoppers moving from the clover to another piece getting away from you. This is between an eighth of an inch and a half an inch in length. It's native to China, India, and Vietnam. It was introduced into South Korea and Japan. In Korea, it was first detected in 2004. Note that date. The spotted lanternfly is known to utilize more than 70 species of trees. And in this case, this came from Pennsylvania's PennDOT and Department of Agriculture, 25 of which also occur in Pennsylvania, including cultivated grapes, fruit trees, and hardwood species. On September 22nd, 2014, in Berks County, Pennsylvania, the Department of Agriculture confirmed the presence of spotted lanternfly in Berks County, Pennsylvania. As of March 2017, there are now more than 50 municipalities in 6 counties under movement quarantine. Movement quarantine is defined as campers, trailers, boats, wood, stone, things of that nature. The spotted lanternfly has since spread. As of March 13th, 2020, it is now covering almost half of Pennsylvania, part of New Jersey, out onto Long Island, West Virginia, Delaware, Maryland, and all these little dots that you see all over the maps, and I'll blow it up. These are the dots where deceased spotted lanternflies have been verified. And in New York State, you'll see around us Erie County, Monroe, Yates County, Ontario County, Chemung, just to name the few that are close to us. They were found deceased. They were identified by DEC and Department of Agriculture as being spotted lanternflies. Now I'm going to skip back. This is the scene you've seen everywhere in the newspapers. Very impressive little scene. This is what you'll actually see. When you're gardening, walking around in your yard, neighborhood parks, woodland, all around you look for these signs. These are the insects, the way they sit on the tree. You see in the third and fourth slide, the grouping or the individual female laying the eggs. The finger is pointing to an egg mass on a relatively smooth rock. It's a vertical surface. They prefer vertical surfaces, such as your car, your RV, boat, bricks, stone, things of that nature, your fence posts, because it keeps the water away from their eggs. This is a life cycle. We'll start with the top one where the adult are seen as early as July. The adult females lay eggs. In the fall, preferred host tree is the tree of heaven, the Ailanthus altissima. But any smooth bark tree will do. You won't find these on deeply oak trees or maple trees. You'll find them on smooth bark trees. And as you see in the left hand, when you start out, it's covered by a waxy surface, and then throughout the winter, the wax that protects the eggs move off. It kind of wears away. The nymphs begin to hatch in late April to early May. So right now the nymphs are out there and they're feeding very heavily on all the different trees that they feed on. I have a picture of the tree of heaven later, which I'll help identify. The nymphs have 4 instars, or growth spurts, if you will. The first one starts out as black and white, and then as it matures into the full-grown adult, the 4th instar will be red with white spots. And this is what the first instar looks like. You see the egg masses to the left, covered with a waxy coating. They, well, pretty much form the instars when they hatch, and late April, mid-May, they'll start feeding. As it grows, it changes, like I said, red patches in addition to the white spots. Nymphs spread from the initial site by crawling or jumping. The primary mode of transportation is crawling. They readily drop to the ground and crawl to the next tree. Adults can be seen as early as the middle of July and take on a much different appearance. The 4th instar is to the left, and the adult is to the right. And they're very good at hopping, jumping. Adults at rest have a black head and grayish wings with black spots. As you can see, the tips of the wings are a combination of black rectangular spots. And when startled or flying, they will display the red hind wings. Most insects have 2 sets of wings, and this is no different. From the initial spread wing position, you see it's a beautiful looking insect. It's pale yellow with bands of black on the top, the abdominal region. While a poor flyer, it is a strong jumper. Now, getting into control of this insect, one of the things that the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation is having people do is take a plastic card, like an old credit card, or a stiff knife, and scraping the egg mass into like a little plastic sandwich bag, and then disposing of it. In our case, if you find any egg masses, put it into a plastic bag and put some hand sanitizer. The hand sanitizer will kill it, the eggs, and then make arrangements to either get it to the Department of Transportation or to your local cooperative extension. The egg masses scrape off very easily with both the knife and the plastic card. Don't use your current MasterCard. They don't accept it. Tree banding is a method of control. It's a mechanical control. It's suggested that you band all the tree of heavens because that is the tree they prefer. They prefer to eat it. If anybody's familiar with the book A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith from the 40s, the tree of heaven is the tree that experts believe was named in the book A Tree Grows in Brooklyn because it's very tenacious. It grows everywhere. It'll grow in a crack in a sidewalk. The Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture has a program that supplies volunteers with tree bands. Now the tree band is a set of sticky cardboard type tape that goes around the tree at approximately chest height and it's 6 to 8 inches in diameter or width, and you would cut a piece to go completely around the tree and put it on there. And it's suggested you change it every couple of weeks through July and August. You catch the last instar, and you also catch the adults crawling up to lay eggs. This is a tree of heaven. PennDOT has come out and recommended that you cut out up to a quarter mile from the infested site all the tree of heavens. Now, when you first look at this tree, one of the first things most people think of is walnut or sumac. What differentiates the walnut, the sumac, and the tree of heaven is the walnut has a very strong Yuglin smell. The sumac, of course, has a strong smell. The tree of heaven just smells like crushed greens, green leaves. Notice also the seed pod at the top and the bottom central portion of the picture. It's very prolific at throwing out trees. A friend of mine in North Carolina who suffered the same fate I did with a cardiac problem was laid up for 2 years, and the tree of heaven took over his orchard in less than 2 years. Put out almost 60 seedlings through his orchard. Very fast producer of trees. Currently, there are no pesticides labeled for treatment. Now, I went out and did an update on this. This is as of 2017. As of 2020, April of 2020, there are still no chemical pesticides labeled for treatment for the spotted lanternfly in New York. If they do come up with some that are functional for all stages, then we'll be the first ones to know. They have a couple that seem to work, but it hasn't proved to be effective yet. The spotted lanternfly eradication program is mostly citizen scientists going out while they're walking, like I said earlier, and looking at all vertical surfaces. If, for instance, you go down to Pennsylvania to visit the gardens down there, Longwood Gardens, what you want to do is when you leave, if you visit in July or August, is check your car over and make sure no females have laid eggs. If you're hauling a camper trailer, if you take a bus, the same thing. Do a quick look as a citizen scientist to make sure that they haven't laid eggs on the bus that's been parked on the side. If you think you found a spotted lanternfly, who are you going to call? If you suspect an SLF sighting, take a picture of it on the tree, attempt to capture the insect, put it in the freezer or in a jar filled with alcohol until you can take it and the photos to your local extension office for identification. Again, the alcohol, or if you don't have alcohol, hand sanitizer. I think everybody's carrying hand sanitizer now, so that would be a good thing for using to preserve it. In New York State, if you suspect an invasive insect or egg mass, contact DEC Forest Health. You may wish to take a picture and email it to them. And I do have the number here. If you want to copy it down, you can. The invasive forest pest can also be reported through New York IMAP invasives. That one you have to sign on to. So you would have to go to your extension coordinator or educator if you want to sign on. Collect a sample that needs to be sent to a lab for verification. Please carefully follow the lab's protocol for packaging and shipping. It's very important. It's like reading the label on your pesticides or your fertilizer for your gardening. Read it. Who are you going to call? Continued. If you think you have found a spotted lanternfly, email genesimemg@hotmail.com to send pictures and ask questions. We will be more than glad to look at everything that you send us. Our hotline number is listed at 585-343-3040. extension 127. The Master Gardeners in the office are in the office from 10 to 12, Monday through Friday. We're back, hello. And it's Cornell Cooperative Extension of Genesee County. Now I have a resource page prior to this, or post this, that lists everything that I've used for references, including the new youtube.com watch, which was a different program put on by one of the schools. And I put that in there and added it in. Again, like I say, most of the information hasn't changed. They haven't got a good pesticide yet. Because it is native to China, it has no known predators here in the States. We're hoping that some of the local wasps take over and start laying their eggs in their eggs. But until that happens, our biggest help is birds. And that just about concludes the program. I think that's a quick rundown on it. If you have any questions, if you'd like this, of course, it's going, Jan is recording it, so all this information will be available to you on YouTube. If you aren't familiar with the YouTube or able to utilize it, then feel free to call us here at the Master Gardener program. And I'll leave this up for those that want to copy all this information down. And that concludes my talk on the spotted lanternfly. It's very simple insect, and unfortunately, it eats everything.
Thanks, David. Hey, wasn't there a fungus that was attacking some of the adults last year? A natural fungus that was actually helping to do some control? Do you remember seeing that?
I saw something on that, but I haven't been able to follow up on it because I haven't found any other information at the present time.
Okay. Does anybody have questions for David on spotted lanternfly? There weren't any in the, oh, here's one. What is a predator? What is its predator in China, David? Do you know?
There's a couple of wasps and of course a lot of other insects predated in China. And unfortunately, some of the insects that do the predatory chewing on the spotted lanternfly, we don't want to bring them over until it's proven that they won't spread and cause other problems.
Okay, so Jean, no, none have been seen in Genesee County. Actually, we've not found any live spotted lanternflies in New York State. This is a insect that we do not want to come to New York because of the detrimental effect it can have on forestry and agriculture. In Pennsylvania, it has actually destroyed some of their vineyard operations. So many of them get on a tree that they're sucking the life out of the tree. David, did you talk much about how it attacks the trees with how they just kind of gather and get into the xylem and phloem type thing?
I didn't get into how many are hatched out of the egg masses, and each female can lay up to 5 egg masses at a time. There's between 30 and 50 eggs per egg mass, and when they hatch, you're talking literally hundreds and hundreds of the first star feeders. And like Jan said, they will just suck the life out of a tree, a bush, grapevines, fruit trees, things of that nature.
Yeah, so if you do spot one, like David said, if you can snap a photo of it or collect it, the DEC and New York State Ag and Markets are definitely interested to confirm or deny that you have found one. And you can also contact our office and we can get you in touch with the right folks. But if you're out for a walk or you're on a trail or something and you see a interesting, colorful giant moth like this, please at least take a photo of it and note where you were when you saw it and get the information to us or the DEC as soon as possible. They would definitely go out and scout the area if you can send them a photo. So this is really something that is, you know, private citizens we can be on the lookout for and help prevent it from getting into New York State. Any other questions for David? Oh, Lucy, you raised your hand. Lucy Minor, what, did you have a question? I don't know if Lucy's still on. Lucy, I can unmute you. Well, I'm trying to unmute you. Oh, it won't let me unmute you. There you go,
Okay.
Lucy.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. I just wondered if it was a good flyer and at what instar can it fly?
None of the 4 instars fly. They
Oh,
don't
okay.
have wings.
Is it a good flyer? Does it fly well?
No, it's a very poor flyer.
Poor flyer.
It flies only if it's disturbed. You surprise it, go to scrape it off, then it might fly.
Okay.
The wind blows it off the tree, it'll fly for a while. Its primary mode is crawling and hopping like a leaf hopper. It is a
Gotcha.
plant hopper.
Gotcha. So mainly it gets around by people transportation?
Yep, but they use 6 legs instead of 2.
Gotcha.
And they do use buses and cars and campers.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, got it. Yeah, they can drive, in other words.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah, David, if you want to stop sharing, I actually have a sample of one I can show just so you can see the size of it.
Okay.
I've got one that I got from our state IPM folks.
I'm going to stop sharing at the moment.
Stop sharing. Yep. Stop sharing. So you can see the size. I mean, they are like an inch long. This is an adult.
Gotcha.
And they are large. So you will notice them and you might see them crawling on the ground or you might see them on a tree. If one happened to make its way up in somebody's car, there've been reports of people like in the Philadelphia area. They just get into people's cars. They're kind of slow moving. You don't realize they're on your clothing or whatever. So they might end up in your car. They might end up back here with you. But down in Pennsylvania, I've seen pictures of like thousands of them on trees, and they are really an issue. So that's what we want to be on the lookout for. We've lost a little bit of its color, but it's good size if you compare, you know, with my thumb there. So
The adults can be up to an inch long.
yeah.
With the wings extended.
Yeah.
2 years ago, a friend of mine and her husband were in Longwood Gardens in Pennsylvania, and they were going to Amish country after that. They were having an evening soda pop under the trees, and they were sitting there, and all of a sudden the insects just started dropping on them. And they were quite surprised at the volume of bugs dropping on them.
Where do they overwinter? Where are they when they overwinter?
They overwinter as egg masses on the trees. That's
Ah.
why it's important to look for the egg masses in August and September, October, while you're walking, you're doing your fall walks. Check your porches for the vertical surfaces, your house, aluminum siding, vinyl siding, that kind of stuff. Nice smooth surfaces. And like I showed in the first slide, smooth rocks.
So if you are bringing anything back up from Pennsylvania, equipment, if you've been camping, they also seem to like rusty metal. So people have found them on landscaping rocks, equipment that maybe has been sitting somewhere for a little while, or even just your vehicles, RVs, if you've been camping again. So if you do go through Pennsylvania, some of those counties are quarantined. So you can't bring things out of Pennsylvania in those areas. So they do have a quarantine for good reason, but just, you know, just to make people aware when you're traveling that we don't want you to bring these guys back as hitchhikers. So.
And because of the lateness of the fall, the August, September, October egg laying process, if you're down there in the spring, that's when they're starting to hatch, and you could bring young ones back. But in the fall, be aware of the egg masses everywhere.
All right, any other final questions for David?